Hey, what's up guys? WiredZero here. And in today's video, we're going to go ahead and install Nextcloud on a Raspberry Pi. So what we'll cover: installing the latest version of the Pi OS, installing Nextcloud, adding external storage to Nextcloud, and securing Nextcloud. So let's go ahead and install the Raspberry Pi OS. All right, let's head over in your browser to raspberrypi.org. We're going to click on the software link up at the top. Now we're going to scroll down to where we see all download options and click on that. All right, now we're going to scroll down to where it says Raspberry Pi OS Lite, and we're going to go ahead and download that. For this video, I'll be using the May 7th, 2021 release, which is release 10, codename Buster. All right, when it's finished downloading, let's go ahead and unzip the OS image. Now we're going to need a program to make this ready for the Raspberry Pi on the SD card. So there's two programs basically we're going to be dealing with here. On the Mac, you can use Balena Etcher, and on Windows, you could use the Win32 Disk Imager. I'll be using the Win32 Disk Imager because I'll be using Windows to install the Raspberry Pi OS. All right, so let's go ahead and open the Win32 Disk Imager. And make sure that you have the drive letter set that you have your SD card in, okay? That's very important here, so you want to double check that. And then once you have that set, let's click on the blue folder to the left of it, and we're going to go ahead and locate that download that we unzipped, the Raspberry Pi OS. All right, now when we have that populated in the window, we're going to go ahead and click on Write. And when it's complete, you'll get a message that says Write Successful. All right, let's go ahead and move on. All right, there are a couple things I want to do to this SD card before we stick it in the Raspberry Pi. So let's go ahead and head over to your desktop, right click, and we're going to create a new folder. And for the sake of this video, we're just going to call it Pi. Okay, now in this folder, we're going to create an empty text file. So just right click in this folder, go down to New Text Document, and we're going to call it, you remove everything in there and just name it SSH. And yes, we want to change it. Now optionally, if you want to log into this Raspberry Pi or have it log into your Wi-Fi, let's create another file, and we're going to call it WPA_supplicant.conf. Okay, and yes, we want to change it. And this is what we're going to put in this file. So we're going to go ahead and type in country equals US. Take it you're in the United States. If not, then your country. Update underscore config equals 1. And then CTRL underscore interface equals /var/run /WPA underscore supplicant. Hit enter twice. Network equals curly bracket, hit enter, scan underscore SSID equals 1, hit enter, SSID equals double quote, and this is going to be your Wi-Fi name. That's great. I live next to a car shop. Okay, and now we're going to put in PSK equals double quote, and this is going to be your Wi-Fi password. And then hit enter, and then we're going to close this with a closing curly bracket. And we're going to go ahead and save this. Okay, now let's go ahead and open up this PC. And we're going to open up the SD card. It's going to say boot, so just open that. And now we're going to drag these two files right into the root. Replace. I had these in there already. We can close these. And now we can take the SD card out of our computer, stick it in the Pi, and plug it in. All right, let's go ahead and SSH into our Raspberry Pi. Now, if you need to find your local IP address of your Raspberry Pi, simply log into your modem or router and look for the attached devices. You should be able to find it there. If you need help with that, send me the make and model of your modem or router, and I'll see if I can find out where you need to go to find it. All right, with that being said, let's log into the default credentials for the Raspberry Pi. Now, by default, the user is Pi, so we're going to SSH into Pi at your local IP address. In my case, it's 172.16.0.9. Hit enter, and it's going to ask us to authenticate the fingerprint. So we're going to go ahead and type in yes. And now we're going to need to put the default password in, which is Raspberry. Okay, we're in. I'm going to go ahead and type in clear to clear out this menu. And the first thing I want to do is change the default password for Pi. So we're going to type in sudo passwd space Pi. And we're going to go ahead and create a new password for Pi. And we're going to have to confirm it. Okay, now what I like to do is I like to create my own user. So I'm gonna go ahead and sudo add user space Egon. Okay, now I'm gonna create a password for Egon. Full name. You can enter through all these. They're not necessary. Yes to confirm, and we are good. Now what we want to do now is give sudo access to Egon. So we're going to type in sudo, okay, user mod space dash a capital G space sudo Egon. Okay, now we have sudo rights for Egon when we want to do root level access to things. All right, so now let's go ahead and do sudo apt get update to update our Raspberry Pi. All right, now let's go ahead and type in sudo apt get upgrade. And we're going to go ahead and confirm all this. All right, let's go ahead and reboot our Raspberry Pi. So let's type in sudo reboot. All right, now that we're rebooted, let's go ahead and log in with that second user we created. In my case, it's going to be Egon. So let's SSH into your username, which in my case is Egon, at your local IP address. And go ahead and put your password in. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to type in sudo space raspi-config. And go ahead and put your password in for the sudo access. And now we're going to go to option 5. So scroll down, use your arrow keys to arrow down to option 5, and then tab to hit select. And then we're going to choose L2 time zone. Okay, in my case, I'm going to choose US, tab to OK, Eastern Standard Time, which is my time zone. Hit OK, and now we're good to go. We've just set our time zone. So we can tab down to finish to exit out of the Raspi config. Now there are a couple of things we need to install to make Nextcloud work. So the first thing is going to be sudo apt space install apache 2 space mariadb server space lib apache 2 mod php space -y, so we can get our web server running with our database server that we're going to be using. So let's go ahead and put our password in. All right, the next line we're going to put in is going to be sudo apt space install php-gd space php-json space php-mysql space php-curl php-mb string space php-intl space php-imagick space php-xml space php-zip space -y, so we don't have to confirm it. Now, don't worry, I'll have a link for that entire line in the description below, as well as the previous one. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hit enter and install that. All right, now let's go ahead and download and install Nextcloud. So what you're gonna do is head over in your browser to nextcloud.com/install/pound-instructions-server. Now what we're going to do is we're going to right click on download Nextcloud and we're going to select copy link address. All right, let's head back to our terminal and go to our www directory. So to do that, let's type in cd/var/www/html. All right, now we're going to go ahead and download Nextcloud using the link we copied from the website. So let's go ahead and type in sudo wget space, and now let's just right click to paste in that address and hit enter. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and clear out the terminal window. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna give access to the web access to the Nextcloud folder. So the first thing we're going to type in is sudo space chmod space 750 space Nextcloud space dash capital R. We're going to do this both for the user and the group. So now we're going to type in sudo space chown or change ownership space www-data www-data space Nextcloud space dash capital R and hit enter. All right, time for us to set up our database for Nextcloud. So time for a little MySQL. All right, now we're going to create a database for Nextcloud to use, and we're going to create a user for Nextcloud to use for the database. So we're going to create a database called Nextcloud, and we're going to create a user called Nextcloud and give that user password as password. So let's go ahead and type in sudo space MySQL and hit enter. All right, now what we're going to type in is create user, single quote, Nextcloud, single quote, identified by, single quote, password, single quote. Okay, now we're going to create a database called Nextcloud. So let's go ahead and type in create database Nextcloud, okay? And create database is capital and Nextcloud is going to be lowercase. So let's go ahead and hit enter. Okay, now we're going to grant all permission for that database to our Nextcloud user, which is Nextcloud. So let's go ahead and type in grant all privileges on Nextcloud to Nextcloud at localhost identified by password. It's probably easier to just copy and paste the line I have in the description and just populate it with whatever you're going to populate for the user and the database and the password. Okay, now what we're going to type in is flush privileges. And we can go ahead and quit out of this. All right, now let's change it so when we go to the IP address of our Nextcloud on our local server here, we can actually pull it up just the IP address and not have to worry about the HTML directory. So let's go ahead and change directories over to cd space /etc /apache2 /site -available. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to use nano as our editor and edit this file. So type in sudo space nano space 000-default.conf. Okay, now let's go down to where it says document root right here. Okay, see where it says HTML? Let's put a / Nextcloud. Okay, Control O, and we'll save that, and then Control X to exit. Now let's go ahead and reboot our Raspberry Pi. So let's type in sudo space reboot and hit enter. And put our password in. All right, let's go ahead and open up a browser now and head over to the IP address of the Raspberry Pi. You'll end up with a screen that looks like this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create an admin account for the Nextcloud account here. So we're going to type in, I'm going to type in admin. You can use what you want. And I'm just going to use password. Okay, we can leave the default data folder set, okay, because we already have that preset within our www /HTML /Nextcloud directory. Okay, and now we're going to enter in the database user. So the database user is going to be Nextcloud, what we created, and the password, which we created, was password, and the database name, which was Nextcloud. Okay, and we're going to install the recommended apps, and then we're going to go ahead and click on Finish Setup. All right, now we can log in with the admin account we created for Nextcloud. So in my case, it was admin with password. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on Login. And that's how you set up Nextcloud. All right, let's go ahead and add some external storage to Nextcloud. All right, in the terminal, the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to create a directory to mount our flash drive or our external storage. So let's go ahead and we're going to cd into media. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new directory in here. I'm going to go ahead and go sudo, okay, mkdir, all right, and I'm going to call it p storage. Okay, and we can see we have our p storage directory in here now. Now we're going to need three things basically. We're going to need to find out the UID, the GID, and the UUID, which is the identifier of the drive. So in order to find our UID, what we're going to type in is cut space dash D colon space dash F1 comma 3 space forward slash etc forward slash password. Okay, and now we're going to look for www, which is right here. So that ID is 33. Okay, and now we're going to need the GID. So in order to get that, what we're going to do is we're going to type in get ENT space group. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look for www right here, and that ID is 33. Okay, and now we need to find the UID of the flash drive that we have, or your drive. So what we're going to type in is sudo blkid. Okay, and the name or the label of this drive is P storage, is what I named it. So we're looking for the UUID, which is right here. So this is what we're going to need to document. So those are the three things we need to have in order to make this mount point, and when we reboot, everything comes up with the correct www permissions that we have going on. So let's go ahead and type in sudo nano space forward slash etc forward slash fs tab. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to type in this line, and we're going to replace it with the items we collected from those various points. So in my case, we have the UUID as 980D-CDD4, and then media forward slash P storage, because that's the mount point we want to use, auto default, and the UUID, which we got, which in my case was 33, and my GID, which was 33. Okay, so let's go ahead and just paste that in, and then we're going to hit Control O and save it, and then Control X to exit. Now to test this, we could type in sudo mount -a, and if it comes back with an empty line, we know we are good to go, and we can reboot, and this mount point will be permanently placed, and we'll be able to access this within Nextcloud. So let's go ahead and just sudo reboot. All right, let's go ahead and open a browser and head over to the IP address of a Raspberry Pi. In my case, it was 172.16.0.9. And let's go ahead and log in with our administrative username. In my case, it was admin, and my password was password. So let's go ahead and log in. All right, now we're gonna click on the icon up in the top right. In my case, it was admin, so it's gonna be A. So we're gonna click on that, and we're gonna go down to apps. And we're going to click on the little magnifying glass up here in the top right, and we're going to type in external storage. It'll be the first option up here, external storage support. And let's go ahead and click on enable. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to click on the icon. In my case, it was A for admin, and we're going to click on settings. And now over here on the left, we're going to have external storage. Let's click on that. We're going to give it a name, for a folder name that's going to show up in Nextcloud. So I'm going to call this data. All right, add storage. I'm going to select local. Okay, now in configuration, we're going to type in /media /p storage. And over here on the right, we're going to click on the check mark and click on that. And now that we have the green check mark here, we know it's working. So let's go ahead and click on files up top here, and we should see a folder called data. There you go. There's our external storage. In my case, it was the flash drive I threw in the Raspberry Pi, but that's ready to go. The right permissions are there. So let's go ahead and move on. All right, let's go ahead and secure Nextcloud with a self-assigned SSL certificate. All right, now in the terminal, we're going to create a directory for the SSL in Apache. So let's go ahead and type in sudo space mkdir, or make directory, space -p space /etc /apache2 /SSL, and go ahead and hit enter. And go ahead and put your password in. All right, now we're going to go ahead and generate our certificate. So paste this following line that I'll have in the description below and hit enter. All right, country name, I'm gonna go ahead and use US. State, I'm in Florida, so I'm gonna put Florida in. City, I'll leave that blank. Company, let's go with WiredZero. Enter through. And we are good. We just generated our certificate. All right, now let's go ahead and enable our SSL module for Apache. So let's type in sudo space A2ENMOD space SSL. All right, now we need to restart Apache. So let's go ahead and type in sudo space syst emctl space restart Apache 2 and hit enter. All right, let's go ahead and log back into our Raspberry Pi via SSH. Now what we're going to do is we're going to edit our Apache 2 config file for the SSL. So once you're logged in via SSH, let's go ahead and type in cd or change directory space /etc/ Apache 2 / sites - available. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to edit the config file with nano in my case. So let's go ahead and type in sudo space nano space default -ssl.conf and put our password in. Okay, the first thing we're going to do in here is we're going to change the document root. So we're going to put a / after the HTML and we're going to put in Nextcloud. That way when we type in the IP address of our Raspberry Pi, we don't have to put in Nextcloud. We can just go right there to the root of Nextcloud. All right, and we're going to go ahead and scroll down to the SSL certificate file and the SSL certificate key file, and we're going to change these two. So let's go down to the first one. Control K will take it out, and Control K will take the other one out. Okay, and now we're going to put these two lines in. All right, now let's hold down Control and hit O and save, and Control X to exit. All right, now let's go ahead and enable the default SSL. So let's go ahead and type in sudo space A2ENSITE space default -ssl.conf. And we're going to go ahead and put our password in again. And now we're going to go ahead and reboot or restart Apache 2. All right, now let's go ahead and force Nextcloud to use the SSL. So let's go ahead and type in sudo space nano as our editor space /etc/ Apache 2 /sites - available /000 default.conf. Okay, right before this line here that says error log, okay, I'm gonna go down and we're gonna paste in the following. All right, and now we're gonna hold down Control and hit O, hit enter, and then Control X to exit. Now let's go ahead and enable the rewrite that we just did. So let's go ahead and type in sudo space A2ENMOD space rewrite and hit enter. All right, and let's go ahead and restart Apache. Now we should be good to go. Let's go ahead and test out Nextcloud in a browser. All right, the first screen you're going to be presented with is your connection is not private. It actually is. We're using a self-assigned certificate, so you can go ahead and click on Advanced and proceed. And as you can see here, Nextcloud is using an SSL. WiredZero out.